25% VAT as a last-ditch interim solution. The IFP is anti-VAT increases. This remains our position. And while this VAT increase is not desirable, we support this budget under prevailing circumstances and with conditions. The first of such is that the VAT increase must be temporary and must be done away with as soon as more viable economic income streams are secured. As we support the budget, we remain committed to accountability for effective and transparent fiscal management. It is clear that we need to tighten the loopholes. One such loophole is the 800 billion that is not currently being collected by SARS. Everything must be done to ensure SARS is capacitated to collect these billions owed to the fiscals. Then, it's more urgent than before that we deal with illegal immigration. It is a fact that millions of illegal migrants currently within our borders are putting a heavy strain on our fiscals and takes away from the resources meant for poor and vulnerable South Africans. A responsible budget must strike a balance between economic growth and social development. The IFP is at its core a pro-poor party. Therefore, we needed to see an increased safety net for the poor. We welcome the expansion of the zero-rated VAT food items alongside the increase of the social grants, as it will provide much-needed relief to the poorest households. And we do believe that there is more scope to increase zero-rated VAT food items. The introduction of the Urban Development Financing Grant designed to strengthen infrastructure investment in municipal entities responsible for water, sanitation, electricity, energy, and solid waste management services is also to be welcome, as it guarantees jobs and development. Robust financial management are key to ensuring that municipalities can sustain these services while reducing disparities between urban and rural areas. Government spending will continue to focus on targeted social relief programs, including increasing social grants to offset the cost burden on the most affected household. It remains our commitment to ensure that the VAT increase is a short-term intervention for long-term fiscal relief, and therefore we must implement stricter oversight mechanism within the GNU to prevent wastage and corruption, ensuring that VAT revenue is used efficiently and for the intended purposes. National Treasury must focus on exploring complementary revenue generation strategies, such as improving tax collection efficiency and reducing government expenditure on non-essential items. And more broadly, the GNU must robustly focus itself on job creation, economic growth, and investment. The IFP will hold the government accountable to ensure that VAT increases do not disproportionately burden the poor and working class South Africans, and we will continue to advocate for pro-poor economic policies. Our people are still struggling with the high cost of food, the high cost of fuel, and basic services. So if you were to agree to any form of VAT hike without addressing the challenges our people are facing out there, that would be unjust. These challenges, we believe, were addressed by the Minister of Finance, thus the IFP supported the budget because we were part of the formulation of the budget. Our people are remarkably patriotic and have been enjoying patience. It is morally reprehensible to feed them empty promises, and it is eminently dangerous to lie, as some have done, as to why they don't support the budget, when in fact they do have ulterior motives, which has nothing to do with the lives or the interest of the poor. The IFP remains committed to rebuilding our country. Therefore, we remain committed to the GNU. However, the GNU cannot turn around the economy overnight. We know that disparate times call for disparate measures, and difficult times call for decisive leadership. Economic growth must be achieved, and the economy must be turned around for the poor. We have a set of reasons why we support the framework as it was done last week. Firstly, the billions of rands that were injected on infrastructure are going to create job opportunities on roads and railway, on water and sanitation, on energy and electricity. The billions of rands injected in those categories will ensure that the background is created to grow our economy. The budget is not about 0.5% VAT increase only. It is also about the increase of the social grants. As you rightly know, the old age grant was increased. The foster care grant was increased. The child support care grant was increased. We supported the budget because it also ensured that the fuel levy is not increased, because we knew if the fuel levy is increased, it will trigger the increase on transport and food prices. So now it gives a relief to the poorest of the poor when the fuel levy is not increased. We supported the budget because it is going to inject billions of rands to the Department of Health. Nurses, health professionals will be employed. Medical doctors will be employed. When we campaigned as the IFP, we said we want to see unemployed doctors being employed. This budget addressed the campaign that we did last year. The allocation in the Department of Health will create job opportunities of more than 800 doctors and more than 9,000 health professionals that will be employed. This budget, we supported it because in the Department of Education, the billions injected there When we campaigned as the IFP, we said we want the unemployed teachers to be in the class. This budget is going to employ 11,000 teachers. These teachers, doctors and nurses, will not be teaching in private schools or working in private hospitals and clinics. They will be working in public schools where the children of the poorest will be going. The doctors and nurses will be working in public hospitals and clinics where the poorest of the poor are going. So now, to say the budget is not poor friendly, it's a lie and misleading the community. This budget addresses the needs of the people of South Africa and at the majority, the poorest of the poor. That is why the IFP, instead of choosing cheap popularity, decided to be honest with our people. And the other reason, when we supported this budget, the IFP rejected the 2% VAT increase. And for record purposes, it is not true that there is one political party that rejected 2% VAT increase. I'm saying it on record. And on record, the political parties who objected to 2% increase at the cabinet level, I know I do not have to divulge what was discussed at a cabinet level, but for the sake of dispelling lies, it is not true that a political party that claims it is the one that objected to 2% VAT increase is the one that was the first in the cabinet. It is not true, because I do have the record in the cabinet level. The IFP was upfront, and all political parties, we were upfront to reject 2% VAT increase. And we participated in the process to say, if we want to grow our economy, and if we want to have a budget that is going to service our people, the Treasury must work, amongst other things, looking at the 0.5 VAT increase as an interim measure. And we agreed on two things with the President, that immediately, once the budget is passed, the President must call an emergency. We use the word emergency, urgent, extended cabinet meeting. In that meeting, there are two things we said we will do. Firstly, how are we going to grow the economy so that VAT goes away? Secondly, we said we will visit all the allocation to departments to identify where we can cut so that we can save the money that is running short as we are relying on the VAT. And if we successfully able to identify where we can reduce, the VAT will go away. We want to assure the people of South Africa, the IFP remains with its identity. Our main support are the poorest of the poor, but we cannot mislead them, because the VAT is not being introduced for the first time under difficult circumstances. You look at the options that can be of value in order to have a budget that will be able to serve the people of South Africa. So we want to assure our people that the budget that has been released and approved, it is going to address their need. I must conclude by this one. In the current past budget, an amount of 1.7 billion has been set aside to intervene on disaster-related matters. As last week, as Minister of COPTA, I released 1.4 billion to various municipalities and departments throughout South Africa in order to intervene to all our people who were affected by disaster. We supported this budget above 0.5 VAT increase. There is 1.7 billion for disaster-related instances, and also 4 billion that is going to be kept in order to address the disaster instances of the previous year. Lastly, more allocation is going to be given to municipalities. These billions given to municipalities will relieve the poorest of the poor to get free water and free electricity, which is subsidized by the government through the municipal processes. So now, the myth that the budget is about 0.5 VAT increase really must not have legs to stand. The budget has more benefit to our people other than concentrating on one item. Billions of rands will be invested on ECD, early childhood development of our children. The amount per child in this budget is increasing from 17 rand to 24 rand per a child up to 4 years of age, which has not been the case. And the children who will benefit on this money are the children of the poorest of the poor. That is why we say the budget is poor friendly, as contrary to all what is being said as a misinformation. I want to conclude by giving a summary in isiZulu, Mr. Hlengwa, before we go into questions. Iqembu le-IFP libizele sisithangami ukuze lidlulise ulwazi oluyilo kubantu baseNingizimu neAfrika, ukuze konke ukukhuluma okungesilo iqiniso kungabi nayo imilenze